That's right. It is. It's a very beautiful thing that we do. And, we're still serving, like the community made me do it again. Like after that first one, they were like, you gotta keep doing this, and it's been great. Some of my kids now are like famous musicians. Some of the guys who were playing with us when they were, in high school are now famous and touring. One guy is playing with Esperanza Spalding now. And there's a few kids that are professional musicians, off of playing with us and seeing that they could.
All right, hello everybody. I'm here today with Kebbi Williams of the Tedeschi Trucks Band. And if you've seen the band since they started, you know Kebbi on the tenor saxophone. He's one of four guys who have been with Susan and Derek since the very beginning of the band. Kebbi, hello. Good to see you, man.
Hey, good to see you too.
Thank you. Thanks for taking some time on your busy schedule. You're on an off day as we speak. What do you like to do on your days off when you're on the road?
Oh, I'm pretty active. I like to walk. Everywhere we go, I like to walk. So I'll walk for hours and hit the gym, and then a few of us like to go to jam sessions, like me and now Emmanuel. Used to be Ephraim. Well, when Ephraim was here, we used to go to jam sessions. Brandon and Isaac. That's kind of like the jam crew. Me, now Emmanuel, Brandon on bass, Isaac on drums, and Derek and Sue will pull up too. Like Derek will hit me like, "Did y'all find it? Did you find any find any jams?" And then they'll pull up too.
Yeah, I know you guys love to jam. You've sat in with my band Friends of the Brothers several times. I know some people watching will have seen that. And at least I think it was the very first time we did that. So it was after Tedeschi Trucks at the Beacon. Then you rolled down to the Iridium. We played until, I don't know, maybe 2 o'clock. And,
Yeah.
I felt kind of bad about keeping you guys out. And finally get to bed myself. And the next morning, I see that you and Ephraim, I think, had rolled down from us downtown to the village and sat in, I think, with Kevin Scott at the bitter end. So I never felt
Yeah.
bad about keeping you up late again. I learned my lesson on the road.
No, man. No, man. That's what we do, man. We
Yeah,
yeah, we push all we sleep late, we hang out late and sleep late.
yeah. But you guys are playing fools. I think what that shows more than anything is how much you just love music and love to play.
Absolutely.
Um,
Gotta play.
so as I mentioned, you've been with Susan and Derek since the very beginning of the band. So can you tell me a little bit? How did you connect with them?
So, my very first tour when I got out of college was with O'Teal, and I met O'Teal through Kofi, who used to play with my dad actually in Hilton Head. Like my dad, I'm from Atlanta, and Kofi was living in Atlanta, and my dad moved from Atlanta to Hilton Head because like he got this like great resort gig, and all the musicians had like free hotels and free food, and they could save all their money. So it was a good thing for a lot of Atlanta musicians. So my dad was bringing Kofi down and a lot of other great musicians when I was a kid. And Kofi remembers me from when I was like a kid, like when I first started playing. So then when I went to college and really got serious and became a music major and got out of college and was really playing, Kofi was like, "Yeah, I remember you." And then one day he was like, "Yeah, my brother O'Teal is doing his first album and he wants a sax solo." So I just went in and met O'Teal and did one sax solo and he loved it. And then he was going on tour and didn't have a driver. He wasn't even going to take me on tour because I only played on one song on the album, but he needed a driver, and I was like, "I'll drive." And I started driving, and then I started taking a solo on the one tune, and then I started taking solos on all the tunes, and then I was in the Peacemakers, and that's when I met. I mean, I think I had met Derek before that, but like when I was playing with O'Chill is when I used to kind of be on the scene, and I met like everybody, Derek, Sue,
Yeah.
Warren, Jimmy, just everybody. And then I wasn't in their band, but I just knew them at that time. So then when
Yeah.
Tedeschi Trucks started, O'Teal was in the original Tedeschi Trucks, and like Derek brought Kofi from his band, Sue brought Falcon from her band, O'Teal kind of brought me for horns, like because everybody wanted horns. So O'Teal was like, "Yeah, let's get Kebbi," and then it went from there. And I was in the band from the jump.
That's amazing. And one little lesson there that I think could apply to not just musicians, but any young person who wants to do something. Don't turn down an opportunity. I mean, look at you. You got this all these breaks because you said you would be the driver because you liked O'Teal, I'm sure, and you figured you'd get a solo here and there. And
Exactly.
a lot of people would have been like, "I'm not going to be the driver. That's beneath me. I'm a saxophone player." Yeah. And yeah, so
Yeah,
good move there. I say that because I want my kids to hear that and take those kind of initiatives. That's what you
yeah,
got to do
man.
sometimes. You mentioned college. You went to Howard University.
I
Um,
did.
how did that change you, both musically and as a person? Because I know that can be an amazing experience for people. I have some friends who've gone there and friends whose kids have gone there, and I have some sense of what it does for people. But I'd like to hear your experience.
I mean, I'm biased because I went there, so I'm gonna say that Howard is the best HBCU out of all of them. But I'm biased. But yeah, before I went to Howard, I was just a natural player. I started by ear. My dad taught me how to play, but my dad plays like blues. He knows everything, but he was doing blues and um covers, which was fine. It was fine, but I didn't do too much jazz. And so when I went to Howard, they made me learn like all the history and all the old jazz, and I even had to play classical. And I got an F in saxophone my freshman year because I didn't want to do the classical stuff my teacher was telling me. I was like, I play sax, man. I'm not trying to play no classical.
Mm.
And I wasn't doing what he was telling me. He gave me a fat F. It was like, and my mom was like, "What in the? You gonna make that up?" So I had to go like, I went in summer school. I wound up winning a downbeat award by the time I graduated. So I did graduate, but my teacher made me learn all this stuff that I didn't really want to learn, but it really did grow me learning the history and all the stuff, all the old jazz, the classical, and that's what Howard did for me. And then I moved to New York trying to be a jazz cat, and that was an experience too, all those great players up there.
Did it
But
break your confidence or did it give you confidence? Because it could go either way when you're in that world.
it drove me fucking crazy. New York drove me crazy, man. I was like, I was a starving artist. I was really literally hungry and starving for real, real. But that wasn't what broke me. And I want to say the word break, but not break. Like broke my sanity is what I want to say. Broke. Because when I was in New York, and there's so many great players, and everybody can play all the acrobatics, and everybody can play fast, and everybody can play high. So many millions of people can play all the tunes. But what I was unhappy with was like the individuality side of it. It was like such a sport, and it was just like my daddy. First thing he ever taught me when I learned to play sax was like have your own sound, and that's something I like pride myself on, just having my own sound. And when I was in New York, it was such a sports race, like who can do the best, who's the best, and art is not about the best. Art is about what's your color, what flavor are you, what's your flavor, what's your recipe, you
Right.
know,
Um,
what's your feeling. And
let's talk
so,
about your
yeah.
dad for a second. What are his primary instruments? Because I believe he's sort of a multi instrumentalist, right? And how
Yep.
much direct teaching did he do to you?
He taught me concept bursts. Even before I could play anything, he would say things like I said, like have your own sound. And, he would say things to me like it's not how many notes you play, it's how you play one note. And, you know, but yeah, he was a multi instrumentalist, sax mostly. But then I took his sax. Like I got an old sax from the '20s that I got from him, that he got from his teacher. Um,
And that's
but
still
he,
the one
he
you play, right?
yeah. Right now, I'm playing my Loner horn because my main horn is in the shop. But yeah, that's the horn I've always played since I started playing tenor. Because my daddy put it down. He started playing alto for a while, and the tenor was sitting in the corner, and I took it from him. I was like, "I'm gonna take this, Dad," and I never looked back.
So So what was his main instrument when he was gigging? Like when he was in Hilton Head with that gig, what was he playing?
He was a music major, so he plays everything. Keys, he even plays banjo and bass. So when he first started, he was on bass, but he's an entertainer. He's really like a comedian. Like him and Colonel Bruce used to hang out in
Oh
Atlanta
wow.
on the comedy scene. And he told me, Bruce told me he babysat me before because they were like friends on the comedy
Come on,
scene.
wait. Now listen, Bruce. The amazing thing about Bruce, who I knew really well, he made up a lot of stories, but he also had a lot of amazing stories that were true, and it wasn't always clear. So him babysitting you is a mind blower that maybe he made up. But did your father confirm this? Did you have parental confirmation that that's the thing that happened?
Oh, I believe it because my dad totally knew Bruce. Like he told me that Bruce was on the comedy scene. Like because they both were like on a comedy scene.
So
I never knew that about Bruce. I always knew him as a musician. But
So that was a
yeah.
connection between you and O'Teal and Derek and that world as well. Although I don't know how long it took you to put that together, but as you know, and anyone who doesn't know, I'll tell you, Bruce was the guru for O'Teal. Many people know because of Aquarium Rescue Unit, but also very much for Derek and for Sue,
Yeah.
and of course Kofi. And I mean a lot of people in the Atlanta music world that we're talking about here.
Oh, it was Bruce came to me right away. Like soon as I started playing with O'Teal, Bruce was like, I know your dad, and then I talked to my dad. My dad was like, yeah, I know, bro. I've been knowing Bruce for years. So it was,
Amazing.
yeah.
Okay, your dad's brother, Milan. Sorry, I'm saying
Yeah,
his name wrong.
Mylan, you said it.
He was a founding member of the Commodores, and he wrote a lot of their songs, or wrote or co-wrote a lot of songs, including Machine Gun, which was one of the hippest, instrumentals out there. I know he passed relatively early. Did you get to know him well?
Oh yeah, very well. Yeah, I used to hang out with him. I remember when the Commodores were breaking up and arguing and yelling. Me and my cousin, his son, would be at the door listening like we were little kids, and they were like yelling and screaming because they were brothers and they were really upset. That whole Lionel Richie thing was a big freaking deal. And we'd have our ears to the door listening to them cursing and yelling, and the secretary was like, y'all little kids, y'all get back. Y'all don't need to be hearing that and this and that. So like we were there through all of it. And my dad taught my uncle. My dad was older, so he taught my uncle how to play piano. And
And
my
you,
uncle was an engineering major, and then they all met at Tuskegee and became a band.
It's amazing, and your uncle has one. I mean, I think it's a whole group credit for the band on Brick House. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, if he had done nothing else but have a credit on Brick House, that's a serious slice of American culture right there, man. That song has got to be in the top. I don't know, but it's in the pantheon of American music, not just R&B or funk or whatever you want to call it, but just I would just call it a piece of Americana that's right up there. So that's an
Yeah.
incredible legacy.
He wrote their first hit, The Machine Gun. He wrote that. And
Yeah,
the story is that the way they got famous was Hugh Hefner had a party on a boat, and somebody played that song Machine Gun, and everybody loved it. Everybody on the boat was like, "Yeah, this is great." And then next thing you know, Commodores are famous.
um, the first time that you and I really met and had a conversation, I think, because we had met a bit before, but was at backstage at a government mule show in Atlanta, actually, because Ron Holloway was playing with them, and I went to say hi to Ron, who's a good long old friend of mine, and you were there visiting, and we talked a little bit about this, and Ron is going through some difficult health challenges right now, and I've shared some links to GoFundMe, and I'm going to put that here to help Ron, who's just as great of a person as he is a musician. But could you talk about him a little bit as a saxophonist and what his role in the sax pantheon is?
Oh man, he's totally a titan in the sax pantheon. And I remember first hearing about Ron Holloway when I went to Howard because he was like in the DC area, and everybody was like, "Oh, you got to go hear Ron Holloway," because he used to play with Dizzy, and he's played with all kinds of like jazz and funk and rock and so as soon as I got to college, I was hearing about Ron Holloway, and then I finally got to hear him and meet him, and then like being on the scene, like I said, playing with O'Till. I got to run into him. He would sit in with us, and we go to jams together, and we became good friends. And then he used to play with Susan.
Right, he was
So
in
then,
Susan's the last full on touring band Susan had, I believe, was him and Jason Crosby and some other people. But yeah, so he's directly connected. So, what do you think's
yeah,
the
he's the
hallmark
bomb.
of Ron's style as a musician?
Man, this that big old sound. That for one, that big old sound, but then his versatility, I must say, he can get it on the sax player level. We all know that like he can play the range like up, down, high, low, altissimo, fast, slow, fat sound, great note choice. We all respect Ron, and I'm wishing him a speedy recovery because I want to hear that sound again, man.
Ron played a bunch of gigs with us and Friends of the Brothers, and he would set up right to my left, and just standing there hearing that sound coming right at me was just unbelievable. That's as close as I'm gonna ever get to playing with Lester Young or Coleman Hawkins.
I know that's right, man.
Yeah, and I'm not to say that he sounds really like them, but like you mentioned, that big sound, that big tenor sound, that's a thing, and he has that pretty effortlessly. I'm sure a lot of effort went into getting to where he could be effortless, but it is
Boy.
effortless for him now. That's just how he is. Um, so you mentioned that you were in Tedeschi Trucks from the beginning because they wanted to have a horn section. Were you involved in putting the section together? And who has come up with the horn arrangements? How do you guys work those out? Like when you're coming up with a song, especially something that might have originally not had horns, or how does that all come together? Could you just discuss that compositional aspect a little bit from a horn perspective?
Yeah, we write together. I, in particular, like to write together. I love to be democratic in the writing of horns. When we first got there, so Kofi picked Maurice first. The first iteration of horns was me, Maurice, and Saunders. And Kofi actually met Maurice at Bear Creek, and they were both guest artists who sat in with everybody. They had a great time, and so Kofi suggested Maurice. Derek and Susan both had picked me. And so it was like I had three picks, three people picked me, O'Till, Derek, and Susan. And then Kofi had picked Maurice, and then Maurice brought Saunders along because first Derek he talked to me first and was like, yeah, sax and trumpet. And then I suggested to Derek, like, yo, man, I mean, trombone would really make it fat. And so Derek was like, all right, cool, let's get trombone. And then Maurice picked Saunders. So we went to the studio, and Maurice is used to like one person writing the lines, and it's like, okay, I came up with these lines. Here's the lines, and I kind of like was like not down with that, and I was like, bro, we're gonna write these lines together right here on the spot. So like Derek and them, they do the rhythm section first with the songs and then the words, and then after that's laid down, the horns and the background vocals jump on top of that foundation. So we'd hear the song, and we would literally like blow around together is what I would always suggest. Like, so the song is playing and I go boom, 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 boom. And then like Maurice might go boom, boom, boom. And then we would put that together. So we were like, how about this? Then boom, 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 boom. It was totally democratic how we would write it. And then Derek would be in there too. And if it was too much, he'd be like, yeah, maybe, just half of that. Or, say he would kind of have a final say. If it was great right away, he'd be like, cool, run that. You know what I'm saying? So Derek was still the executor of the lines, so to speak. So it's like Derek was also in the composition too. So it's like a four-way democracy going on when we write our horn lines.
Um, do you think Derek has changed, evolved, or grown as a band leader? in the years since you've been playing with him, or did he was he always sort of the same uh, in terms of being a sort of a
Yeah,
conductor, I guess you could say, on stage?
I think he totally changed. You know, young Derek, young DTB. I felt like he was learning a lot from the older cats, learning a lot from Kofi, learning a lot from young Rico, learning a lot from people. Um, and then, you know, in the Allman Brothers, I think his leadership grew. And it seemed like near the end of the Allman Brothers, he was like the leader of that even. And so then when Tedeschi Trucks started, he was like definitely became like a stellar, incredible, amazing uh team captain, you know, so to speak, you know. Yeah, and it's definitely grown. And he's definitely makes the magic, you know, he's the quarterback for sure. I mean, Susan is like the MVP talent, like, you know what I'm saying? And Derek is like the coach, like, you know, she's like the running back that knocks everybody over. And Derek is like the quarterback throwing the ball to all the rest of the team and stuff, you know.
Right. You've had a pretty steady lineup for a while now, for a few years. Does that make it easier? Like everybody just is settling in, and I have seen you and Brandon and Isaac and Alicia. Like when you guys came and sat in with us, like half the band came, which was nice for us, but also I thought it was just nice because it's like, yeah, like whatever, two, three guys are playing, everyone else is just chilling. Like you move as a
Yeah.
pack is what I'm saying. And
Oh, we definitely do.
yeah,
We're a big gang, man. We're a big gang.
yeah. Um, so you have a charity, Music in the Park, Atlanta, and you have a festival on October 24th. But you can talk about the actual event, but tell me a little bit about Music in Atlanta and what it. I'm sorry, Music in the Park and what it aims to do and why you started it.
Yeah, I started it by accident. I got a little bitty small grant from the city of Atlanta to do a individual artist presentation. I think I got like $4,000 where I could have done like a small group. I could have done anything I wanted to. I could have done a solo show, or I could have done like a quartet, and everybody got a nice little paycheck. But I was super ambitious, and I wanted to do this orchestra, and I called the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, and it was like, yeah, we cost a lot more than 4,000, buddy. So I was like, oh shit. So I honestly was like, well, let me just get some students to do it, you know what I mean? So we can just do this for the community because I was going to do it in the community no matter what, like out for free for people. Um, and I wanted to do this big symphonic piece selfishly as Kebbi Williams. And I had this composer come from LA, Los Angeles. His name is Miguel Atwood Ferguson. He's like international. He's played with like, he's written for Dr. Dre and Kendrick Lamar and Thundercat and all those LA people. Like if you hear strings on the Kendrick Lamar album, that's Miguel.
Okay.
Um, so he's awesome. We brought him in, and we had I found some students, some youth, to play in the orchestra. I had O'Teal playing with me that first time. Kofi was playing. I had this famous drummer Chris Dave playing with us. And so I had the pros, the big time superstars playing with the kids by accident. And what happened next was just amazing for all of us. Like the kids, like I saw the way the kids grew from sitting next to us, and I saw the fire that was lit in them from playing with us. Playing the music was hip because it was like new music that Miguel had written. It wasn't just the standard old like take the A train stuff. Um, and the kids were so happy to play this hip new music with these superstars, but also we were uplifted because a lot of times us artists we just get so much into like wanting to win a Grammy or wanting to be the best in the world or being a genius or I'm the you know I want to write this profound music. I me and we forget about the give back and how important that is. And I think a lot of us were like, wow, like this is really special to be given back. And so that was two. One, the kids had a fire lit. Then the adults, the pros also had a fire lit, like, wow, giving is fucking crucial and special and important. And then the community, man, the first one we did, I had homeless people coming up to me because we did it in a park that was kind of troubled where the kids would be selling drugs on the basketball courts, and that was kind of my idea about it too. Like I wanted just those bad kids to see good kids, those bad kids out there selling drugs to see these young little girls playing violin and like and seeing the positive side of youth, and it's music and it was hip. And then we had homeless people coming up to us crying. This one lady came up to us crying, like, I never heard nothing like that before, ever. Because it was like orchestral but funky, and all they had really ever heard in the hood was just like maybe some rap and some reggae coming out of the back of somebody's car, or maybe some gospel out the church. They ain't never heard like no symphonic. In the rich neighborhoods, they get orchestral, jazz band, choir. They get good stuff all the time in their parks and neighborhoods. And the poor people, they don't get that at all, bro. And
But
so then it was like everybody got uplifted, so I had to keep doing it.
that's great. How long ago was that?
I started it when I first got in the band. When I first got a piece of change playing with Tedeschi Trucks, I started my nonprofit, and that experience inspired me to get the nonprofit. I did that the first year I got in the band, and we've been serving kids in the community ever since for 15 years.
I,
My nonprofit is as old as TTB is.
that's amazing. Well, I think that homeless woman who was crying and reacted that way. My guess is that part of what she was responding to, I'm sure you're right, maybe she never heard music like that, but it touched something in her that helped her remember that she was a person just like you or I. Because I think people go through hard times on the street or whatever, they lose sight of their humanity, even themselves, because
Well,
people look through them and don't look at them like people so often that I think it freezes out their own sense. And that's the beauty of music. You don't have to be going through that hard time, right, to be able to be so deeply touched by it. But when someone is, that's a
mhm.
powerful thing. I mean, you reach through whatever, struggles this woman has been having and reminded her she's one of God's children too, just like everyone else. And that's a beautiful thing.
That's right. It is. It's a very beautiful thing that we do. And we're still serving. Like the community made me do it again. Like after that first one, they were like, "You gotta keep doing this," and it's been great. Some of my kids now are like famous musicians. Some of the guys who were playing with us when they were, in high school are now famous and touring. One guy is playing with Esperanza Spalding now, and there's a few kids that are professional musicians, off of playing with us and seeing that they could,
That's great,
and
and
they'll
that's
tell you
that's
that.
very much like a New Orleans kind of feel, right? Where it's common for those kids to be playing uh, this kind of music in a way that it isn't in most of the rest of our country, and we've lost so much music education in schools.
Yeah.
Um, you obviously had the blessing of your father teaching you, but did you also study in schools when you were coming up?
Yeah, I was really kind of by ear. I mean, my father taught me how to play the saxophone, basic, the notes and the scales, but I didn't really dive deep into music education for real until college.
Did you go to Howard sure that you were going to study music, or were you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was sold on music in the 10th grade. I played at an assembly because, like, I went to a math and science school and music wasn't the focus. And because my dad was a musician, I decided to put a little jazz band together, like extracurricular. And I played at the homecoming coronation, and the crowd went wild when I took a solo. I was like, I'm gonna be a musician.
Yeah. You're a pretty tall guy. Did you ever play sports?
I did. I played basketball and ran track.
Uh, um, before you hooked up with O'Teal and then Derek and these last 15 years where you've been so immersed in this world, were you aware of the whole Allman Brothers universe? And
No, I wasn't.
yeah,
I actually was not until I got with O'Teal, and he was playing with them at the time, and he was telling me all the stories, and I was learning. Yeah,
how's it been to end up like the show in Macon, last weekend? For people in the audience, which I was one of them, so many of us, it's almost like a spiritual journey, especially seeing Derek and Warren together, but even just seeing their two bands together, it's a big deal. Do you at this point, I'm sure, fully understand that? And do you feel it? I mean, you're part of this tradition too now. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, man, I'm honored to be a part of it, and I do love it when whenever Warren's around, it's really freaking awesome. I love it when those two play together. And I also sat in with the Allman Brothers back in the day, even before Tedeschi Trucks. I think when I was playing with O'Teal, just hanging with him, and the Allman Brothers would be playing a show. They would let me sit in, like So I experienced the Allman Brothers in real time.
Yeah, I saw you and Maurice sit in with them, and I saw you and Maurice sit in with Government Mule and Trombone Shorty. I saw with the Brothers. I always loved when they had horn player Bill Evans, another one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a part of the legacy too. I'm wearing the JMO shirt today.
I
JMO,
love J Mo.
yeah, yeah. Back in the earliest days of the Allman Brothers, JMO would bring Juicy Carter and this TikTok and these guys who had played in the horn section, who were the horn section for the Percy Sledge Band, would come sit in with the Allman Brothers whenever their paths could cross. Um, and they had the vision. I mean, if Dwayne had lived, I believe the next step they were going to add a horn section. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, they wanted the idea was there, and they were just at the verge of like having enough money to do it. So, who knows if it would have become a permanent part of the band? But for 100% sure, there would have been Allman Brothers shows with a horn section back then.
Oh, yeah. Well, that means Tedeschi Trucks, we have to carry the torch.
Yeah, I think there is always felt like an element of like that's part of what Derek was doing was exploring. Who knows? Like if Dwayne had lived, there might have been a million different things. Yeah, I think he would have tried a million different things, but absolutely for sure, there's something like what you're doing is one of them. So and a lot of people sense that. I'm quite sure Derek does since he's been, you know, I first heard about Derek when he was 8 or 9, 10 years old. I don't know, 11, whatever it was. He was little, and Kirk West was always telling me about him, and I was like laughing. I'm like, oh yeah, like I want to hear Butch Truck's little kid nephew play guitar, like that's a. And then finally, Kirk just played me a VHS tape of him, and you know, sorry, Kirk, I should have listened to you the first time you told me about this kid. It's incredible, and it's like watching to see him grow from that, where he started at a very high level. I guess he really only did one thing really well at that point, but he did it so well, the slide thing, and to see him develop into, an adult and a great person and a master musician. I mean, I'm not the only one, but for those of us who have seen him from that age, it's quite amazing. Like you don't get the opportunity to watch someone's whole development from being a kid to where he is now very often. It's fascinating and amazing thing.
Yeah, man. I feel like he's still growing. I hear his solos, and he's still reaching for stuff and trying stuff.
Yeah, and he likes to keep you guys on your toes. Right now, there's a lot of times where everybody gets well, most nights everybody in the band gets like a at least a moment to really have their shine. Do you always
Mhm.
know at the start of the night where your moment's coming, or do you have to stay?
Heck no. Heck no. I love it, man. We don't never really know until after sound check. We do sound check and see how the room sounds, and then like come up with a set list. And then even with the set list, he'll throw an audible or just point to somebody. Whereas there are some songs where it's the usual suspect solo on that song, but sometimes he'll just point or look and be like, "All right, go."
Yeah,
And I love that personally. I love that spontaneous thing.
and since about a year or two ago, when you guys added "It Ain't Fair," that just slays me because always, it's Aretha Franklin song, of course, featuring Dwayne on the original recording, and it's a song that always stuck out to me. Like I probably heard it the first time on the Dwayne Allman anthologies, and I mean, Aretha is Aretha, and it's to me, one of her deepest, best cuts. And so when you guys first did it and I heard it, I mean, it's just one of those songs. As far as I know, at least in the time I was around, paying, could go see Aretha, which I fortunately got to do, but she wasn't playing that, so I never thought I would hear that song, and I think it's great that Sue gives Alicia. I don't think a lot of singers would let their backup singer have that much shine because it's quite a powerful performance. And Derek, of course, is playing a la Dwayne, and you play on that song very much like King Curtis, who's on the original. Did you?
Yeah,
Was
yeah.
that part of your repertoire always the King Curtis? Like when you added that song, did you go study him and be like, really? Because it's a pretty unique
Yeah, I
sound.
mean, I already knew who he was, but I definitely tried to be in that vein on that song, you know. I definitely like wanted to pay homage to his sound for sure.
And since Kofi's passing, you also added flute to your repertoire. Was that something you wanted to do to honor Kofi and to have that because that the flute had been a part of the band's sound since the beginning?
100%, man. Like Kofi was a master on flute. Like I think he was first a flautist even before keys. So he was a master flautist. And he taught me things, you know, I'm a sax player and I picked up the flute later. And Kofi actually taught me some things like some fingerings and some basic flute stuff. But I was always like, I wouldn't play around him, you know, I'd be like, I just listen. So when he first passed, I still didn't want to play because I'm like, I'm not as good as Kofi on flute. He's a real flautist. But then after like a year or so, after a year or two, I was like, man, you know, I owe it to Kofi to play this flute, man. But you know, and so now I'm really trying to get on the flute in his honor, you know, and for myself and for every and for the world, because the world needs flute.
Yeah, and it's one of the flute is a great instrument, and obviously we don't hear it that often in a rock or blues context, and that's one of the
Yeah,
reasons that Kofi playing it stuck out. So I think it's cool that you have brought that back into the band, both in honor of him and just in honor of the instrument. So
that's right. Well,
it's cool. Well, Kevin, thank you very much for your time. It's always a pleasure to catch up with you. Have a great festival. We'll help get the word out, and I look forward to the next time I see you in
oh
person.
yeah, go to my website. We still need support. You know, the funding this, you know, like a lot of arts funding is already cut. So go to our website, you know, www.musicintheparkatl.org and make a donation and help us out with, you know, in the community, man. We need help now. As
Yeah,
you know,
thank you.
I've gotten grants before.
And I'll include that link in all the listings with this video, so guys can look right down one click to give, support the arts, support kids, support Atlanta, and support Kebby and pushing music out to people. It's a beautiful thing.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I'll see you soon.